Hey guys, Baird here with Specca Tech. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to have a look inside the SVS Ultra Evolution bookshelf speaker. I've already done the review and the overview, and I'll link those in the top right hand corner if you want to check those out. But today I figured I would take out the drivers and show you guys, see if we can have a look at the crossover as well as the terminal plate. So let's get right into the speaker and show you guys what it's made of. Alright, so all you need to take this thing apart is a hex bit. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus on that. Probably not. So you just need a hex bit like that, if you guys can see that. But anyway, I'm sure you can figure it out. It's not that big of a deal. And then you got 4 screws around the tweeter, and it looks like 6 around the woofer. So let's start with the tweeter here. The tolerances are very tight on this, actually. What if I lean it forward? There we go. So the trick is to lean it forward. And then you just have these spade connectors here. All right, so all you have to do to take the tweeter off is pull off the spade connectors. All right, so these spade connectors are actually pretty tight. So I'm going to try using this needle nose plier. I just don't want to wreck anything, but they're definitely not going to come off on their own, guys. You know what? I think I'm going to leave them. They're just too tight. It's just bending everything. So I'm just going to leave these spade connectors on. All right, so as you can see, the tweeter seems to be pretty well built. It's got a nice magnet structure on it. It's got some heft to it, but not much to see here. I would like to see some better connections other than these spade connectors on here, but again, these are built to a price point, so it is what it is. I'll just put it back in for now. Let's see if we can get the woofer out. All right, so as soon as you get the screws out, the woofer wants to pop out on its own. So again, you know what, let's just back this thing up a little bit. Again, we got those same spade connectors. So the woofer is pretty robust. It's got a nice cast basket, a decent sized magnet motor structure. Let's see if I can take these off a little bit easier. And no, these spade connectors are just as tight as the ones on the tweeter, which it bends the plate that it's attached to trying to take them off. I would of course like to see better connectors than these spade connectors on here, but they are built to a price point, so it is what you're gonna get. That's the woofer. For those of you that wanted a closer look on the woofer, it's got this nice woven fiber material on the outside of the cone, and it does feel pretty solid. It's a nice hefty driver. It does feel well built. Let's get some footage of the crossover on the inside. So the crossover is something that SVS discusses on their website, that they try to use quality parts. So let's have a look at it. Here's a little added note for you guys. Because my camera was getting too close to this magnet, it was messing with the gyro and it kept flipping the screen upside down and right side up. So just so you know, if you ever have your camera too close to a magnet, it's going to mess with the gyro on the inside. There you have the crossover. It looks pretty simple, but you know what? Let's try and take the back plate off, see if we can get a better view. So you know what? Let's turn this around. Show you guys what it looks like up close and personal. Here's the crossover. So one iron core inductor, one air core inductor, resistor and capacitor here. Not much to it, very simple. Looks like you do have some steel nuts in there though. But for those of you wondering what the crossover looked like, that is what it looks like. Very simple. All right, so now that we've had a look at this crossover and terminal plate, let's put that back in. And then we'll have a look at the inside of the cabinet if we can get a good view. Now that we have that nice and tight, let's turn this thing back around. Let's see if we can get a good view of the inside of the cabinet. Show you guys what that looks like. Now for the most part, the inside is just full of polyfill. But let's try and get a good look in here for you guys. There's no cross bracing in between. It's just basically the cabinet with the polyfill. No, there's no bracing in this cabinet, but it does feel like a pretty sturdy cabinet. But there you have it. There's not much to this speaker. It's pretty simple. Okay, so when you're taking the speaker apart, keep in mind that these spade connectors are not going to come off very easy. Okay, so let's get this thing back together. Now that we've had a look inside the SVS Ultra Evolution bookshelf speaker, let's talk about the build quality and what I do like and what I'd like to see improved in the future. So first, let's talk about the improvements that I'd like to see in the future. The first thing that I'd like to see improved is those spade connectors on the inside that they use to connect both the tweeter and the woofer. Although this is very common for most speakers to use them, I would like to see something a little bit better. But in their defense, I don't see these spade connectors ever coming loose. They are extremely tight. As a matter of fact, me pulling on them, trying to get them off, it felt like I was going to break something if I tried any harder. The second thing that I would like to see is to remove some of the steel in the signal path, like the steel nuts on the back of the terminal plate. It'd be nice for them to use something else and have a more direct connection to the wire itself. I know that some of you don't care about this, but there are some out there that do, so I wanted to point that out. And the last thing that I'd like to see improved is for them to include some bracing on the inside of the cabinet. They do use a lot of polyfill, like all of the walls are pretty much covered in polyfill, so there is quite a bit of that in there to reduce the resonances, but I would still like to see some bracing on the inside of the cabinet. That being said, it is a very hefty cabinet. It is pretty solid in and of itself without the bracing. It does have a pretty solid knock test for those of you out there that like the knock test. It is pretty solid, and I have heard much worse. But it still would be nice to see some bracing on the inside. Now let's talk about what I do like about the build quality, and that's pretty much everything else. The finish on this cabinet is actually very well done. It's a nice gloss finish, and I mentioned that in the review already. And although I just pointed out that I would like to see some bracing on the inside of the cabinet, that doesn't change the fact that this is a very solid and well-built cabinet without that bracing. The woofer and the tweeter also seem to be very well built. They have a nice motor structure. They seem to have some heft to them. I like the fact that the woofer is using a cast frame or a cast basket. That's very nice to see because you can get some resonances if you are using a stamped steel basket. So very nice that SVS is using a cast basket here. When it comes to the crossover, I'm not going to give a strong opinion here because when I listened to the speaker, it did sound fantastic. And in some areas, I do feel it's punching above its price point. But I'm sure there's going to be some of you out there that think it should be made with better parts. There's going to be some of you out there that think that the parts that it's made with are adequate and are worth the price that you're paying. Yes, for me, I guess it would be nice, of course, if they used better parts. I'm never going to say no if they're going to use better parts. But like I said, listening to the speaker, it did sound great. It had great imaging. It did have great separation. So I feel as though the parts that they use are adequate and they are sufficient for the price that you're paying. So to sum it all up, I think you are getting a very well-built speaker for the price. And again, everything is built to a price point here. Is there some speakers that might have some better build quality in certain areas? Probably. There's also going to be speakers in this price point that are going to have worse build quality in some areas. So both are going to be true. I think all in all, if you look at the speaker as a whole, it's very well built and it does sound fantastic. And if you want to know how it sounds, like I said, I linked the review in the top right-hand corner of this video. But if you guys would like to check it out further, I've dropped links down in the description below. And make sure that you do stay tuned on the channel. So subscribe, tick the bell icon if you do, and please take 1 second to hit that like button. I always do appreciate it because I have some videos coming out on some high-performance subwoofers from TONEWINNER. The beast under here, which is an 18-inch subwoofer, you just can't see it because I was using it for the stand for the speaker, and then I have one off to my left here that's a dual 15. Fantastic performance, lots of output, so stay tuned on the channel for those. Remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.